The kinds of things that really make the difference are relaxation to get the tension out of the physical body and meditation to still the mind. So,
before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognizes and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes. Hello, I'm Karen Mellors.
hello there, I'm Dr. Rosy Daniel.
You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. Hello everyone, so we are here again. You've not got rid of us yet. We are still finding the energy to come in every single week. And thank you so much to our new listeners. We have jumped up in the amount of listeners by quite a bit over the Easter period when we didn't release a podcast episode. So more holidays for us, Rosie. Somebody must be missing us. But today is episode 41 and we are going deeper into these health conditions, and it's about asthma today, Rosie, something that affects so many people, or if it's not asthma, some sort of breathing difficulty that has been diagnosed as asthma. So we're going to get really detailed about it, and you're going to help people understand what it is that's going on, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is so common and frightening, and particularly when it happens to our little ones, so I think it's a very important thing to focus on and get people feeling empowered and like there are things that they can do.
Yeah, breath is our life, isn't it? So it's really important that we have awareness about it. So tell us first then, what is asthma? What's happening in the body when we have an asthma attack?
Okay, so it's an inflammatory state. And what's happening is as we go down our bronchial tree, so we start at the top with the trachea, and that divides into the 2 big main bronchi, into the lungs. And then it goes down in a tree-like fashion into smaller and smaller tubes. And there are ones near the actual alveoli of the lungs called bronchioles. And they have muscles in their walls. And in reaction to irritants, be it pollen or dust or animal dander, a whole bunch of things that the lungs don't like, particularly in people of a very sensitive nature, these little bronchioles can constrict. And you can see the sense of it, which is that if your lungs know that they don't want to get something down into those very, very delicate tissues of the alveoli, where the oxygen and carbon dioxide transfer, it's trying to shut it down so that those irritants don't get deeper into the lungs. And the problem with that is it makes it actually really hard to breathe out. So people portray, in movies, asthma as kind of like gasping for breath in. Well, it's actually, it's wheezing on the out breath because, when we're breathing in, we expand a little bit. But when we're trying to push air out through tiny tubes, that's when you get whistly wheezers and that sense of panic if people don't feel they can get their breath out.
Yeah. And that's really an important point. It's a simple thing to watch for if you're having breathing difficulties, because I have been misdiagnosed. Because of my scoliosis, I have something called bronchiectasis.
Bronchiectasis.
Bronchiectasis. I can never say these big words. Bronchiectasis. And my wheeze is on the wheeze in.
Oh.
And I was misdiagnosed that it was asthma. And somebody was recommending, a respiratory consultant was recommending steroids. But I just knew, and I checked with you, that the wheeze was in the wrong place for that.
Yeah. Well,
don't have a wheeze on the out breath.
I mean, in truth, asthma does often go with a raft of other conditions, because if there is, if the lungs are sensitive in this way, we can tend to pick up infections. And also, when people are coughing against resistance, that can tend to blow out the alveoli are like little bunches of grapes. They're little air sacs that are very delicate. And if you're trying to cough against resistance, we can blow out those little alveoli. And that means we've got less surface area in the lungs for oxygen transfer. So that is called an emphysema. And if people are also very prone to getting repeated infections, then that can lead to bronchitis, where we've got inflamed tubes, and bronchiectasis, where there's this constant inflammation and overproduction of mucus going on. So it does all hang together.
But important to understand the difference as well.
The big difference is that this constriction of the bronchioles is reversible. So if you've got that kind, there's much more we can do to get in around it, in amongst it, to break it down. What are the factors that are causing it, and which are the ones over which I can have control.
Wonderful. I love it every time you say that, because it's like hope comes in the room, and that's different to, you've got asthma, it's a lifelong thing, take this inhaler, go away. There is hope, and you can change things to make life better for yourself. So what kinds of things increase the risk of having an asthma attack, Rosy?
So let's start on the physical. So the most common things are dust mites. So, in our lovely, beautiful homes, dust actually attracts these little critters, dust mite, and their shells and the dander and the soap, all of that is allergenic for some people, but so is pollen, so is animal dander. So if you live with cats and dogs and they're shedding skin and so forth, that can be kicking us off. And so can mold in the house. So unfortunately, that's a lot of things which are in a lot of people's environments. If we move out to the environments, it can be a sudden blast of cold air can cause that constriction. Smoke outside can, or inside, if people are smoking around us, and other kinds of air pollution. So people living downwind of incinerators and factories, that can be bad, and as can sprays from industrial farming, where the land is being sprayed over and over and over with weed killers and the fertilizers and anti-infection sprays that are being used. And then we kind of come across into the land of occupational exposure, an awful lot of things people do, raise dust or fumes. I mean, even a beautician sanding people's feet, dinosaur feet, is kicking up dust, but, vapors can kick us off. But then the biggie course, you'd know I would say this being a mind-body doctor, is the interaction with our emotions. And it seems to be a condition of people who are highly sensitive. And this comes into the territory we've discussed before about where is our allergic threshold? You know, how upset are we? How stressed are we? How frightened are we? How impacted are we by what's going on around us in our emotion with the, you know, the kind of relationship dynamics that might be going on with parents or around alcohol or drugs or violence or just pure, you know, incompatibility.
Yeah. Well, before we go on to that bit, I just want to name again a really important bit, which is the new information you've just given me, is that to these irritants, our body is taking a normal response in shutting down in your lungs so that you don't take these pollutants into your body. That's like a wow. Hang on a minute. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So outside factors getting into our body, normal response, shut down, resulting in this wheeze on the out breath.
Yeah.
Normal bodily response.
Yeah.
I think that's big news, Rosie.
Well, that's good, isn't it? Because, you know, we can reframe that because you can tell yourself if you're starting to go into an attack, you know, my body's actually protecting me from something in this environment that I don't like. And then the question is, you know, sorting out where's my safe environment? Where are the rooms, places, you know, maybe outdoor or indoor, where I actually can breathe easy? Because we all have those places, you know, those of us who suffer with sensitive chests.
I think that's a really important line as well. Where are the places that I can breathe easy? I mean, that's physical, emotional, spiritual, it's environment. It's on all levels, isn't it?
It so is. And, you know, when I ask people, my clients, you know, where do you feel at peace? Where do you feel at home? Where's your happy place? So many people, first thing is the forest. You know, the number of people who say, the minute I get in amongst the trees, I'm good. And, you know, when you think about that, we originated as forest dwellers. And what do trees do? They produce oxygen. So there's this incredible symbiosis between people and plants in general, but trees in particular, because they, you know, we give out carbon dioxide that they love, and they give out oxygen that we love. But along with the oxygen, they're putting out all their beautiful essential oils and aromas and good vibrations, and they are solid and they're safe and they're secure. You can tell how I feel about the forest, can't you?
Well, I'm living in one. So I've moved to be closer to one, and I know it to be true, Rosie, because my last lung function test, my lungs have got better by 11%.
Wow.
And the only difference is that I'm not living in Derbyshire now. I'm living in the Scottish Highlands, and there's many more forests and less pollution. So when we're in with the trees and we're taking in their oxygen and the essential oils, our body's not shutting down. It's actually breathing easier.
Yeah. I mean, there may be somebody listening who's saying, well, I kick off in the forest. I mean, there are spores, there are molds, there are, you know, leaf molds, there's mushroom spores and so forth. Obviously, there's that thing. But the second most commonplace people say to me that they feel happy and in balance is by the sea.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Going to say that.
And again, you know, or lakes or rivers, because we've got ozone as well as oxygen. So oxygen is O2, ozone is O3. So this isn't a sort of extra packed oxygen molecule.
But I think one of the key points you're making here is that find out for yourself where you breathe easier. So that's homework for us all, really. Where is it that I breathe easier?
Yeah.
Physically, emotionally, spiritually, my environment.
Yeah, but just to tell you a story that I've only just heard actually a week ago from a client about her child who, personally, I think quite often people who are atopic, as in who've got this strong reaction to histamine and sensitivities, allergies, quite often in little children, it can start as eczema, and then the eczema gets suppressed with steroid creams, and next thing we know, they've got asthma. So I've seen this over and over again when I was working as a GP, that it seems that, if it's like that old adage, what the mind represses, the body expresses. And if we are pushing down emotion that is first coming out through the skin and we repress that, another layer, it seems to go deeper. So that's just a Rosy thing. That's not written up in any journal. That's just what I've observed. But this lady told me that when her son was small, he was prone to asthma. And then it turned into a full-blown anaphylactic reaction where he choked and had to be rushed into hospital, and fortunately was okay. But the massive, great big insight she had, that what he was allergic to was her relationship with her first husband. So she said that they often fought. They were, that it was toxic. There was a lot of bickering, very little resolution. And surprise, surprise, when they parted company, this little chap has got better and hasn't had either asthma or anaphylaxis since.
Wow, that's huge, Rosy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, so this opens up the picture of what I call being a symptom carrier for the group you're in or the family you're in. And I think I told you the story of a little girl when I was a GP in Bristol, whose parents fought terribly badly. I mean, every Monday morning, this lady would come in with a new bit broken, a cheekbone, a rib, a wrist, from having been attacked by her then husband. And their little daughter got measles encephalitis, which is really serious, can cause brain damage, and is the reason why we have measles vaccinations. Anyway, guess what? The minute this child got this very serious life-threatening illness, all the violence stopped. The guy moved out and the cycle was broken. So she had become unwittingly, but just with great emotional intelligence somewhere in her being, she'd become the symptom carrier for the family.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? That, when somebody is in fear, when somebody is holding something, like trying to survive, one of the first things they do is hold their breath. In constriction, and really like, I'm frozen in fear. If we're holding our breath, maybe even in an attempt to seem strong, to be able to cope, then we're not breathing. I mean, it causes so many problems because we need that life breath, don't we?
We absolutely do. And, what I notice when I first meet people and I'm kind of tuning in with people is where and how they breathe. Because people that are anxious breathe at the top of the in-breath. So you're holding the breath in and taking little tiny sips of breath at the top of the in-breath. Whereas people who are depressed, they breathe out and they're taking tiny sips at the bottom of the out-breath. So one of the things that is really relevant to this whole topic, and before going there, to say that in Chinese medicine, in acupuncture and shiatsu, they talk about the lungs as being the seat of our grief. So that actually when the lung energy is low and stagnated because we're holding our breath, this goes with the grief state and the fear state. But I think you can relate to that, can't you, Karen?
Yeah, very much so. In my training, in the work that I do with clients, and particularly in Circle as well, but my own personal experience. So I was having chest infections 3 or 4 times a year, and just hearing from the medical profession that it's to do with my physical body, scoliosis, and the restriction of my lung. But at that time, I met Joey Walters and I started working on my emotional strength. And what I realized is that there was a hell of a lot of grief, Rosie, that I was holding in my lungs. And Louise Hay talks about this as well. You know, she really says that that is where you will suppress your emotion and it's held in your lungs. When you're trying to be strong, you hold your breath. When you're coping, you hold your breath. But let's just redefine strength here. Yeah, because I cry all the time now. It feels like it more than I ever did. I will not suppress the feeling of sadness or the feeling of grief. And so I'm releasing it from my lungs. And at the moment, I haven't had a chest infection for 18 months. The respiratory department are wondering what's going on. You know, lung volume increased by 11% and no chest infections, touch wood. So I'm redefining strength. My sister thinks I'm falling to pieces, bless her, because she's never seen me cry so much. But that is our resilience. Like young children, Rosie, they fall over, they cry, they stand up, they have joy. You know, it moves through us rather than suppressing it and holding it in.
Yes, absolutely right. Well, absolute hats off to you. I mean, that's amazing. No chest infection for a year and a half, and your lung function improving by 11%. That's mighty, Karen. And you know, and I think that if we just focus for a moment on fear and anxiety, you know, so many people feeling frightened and anxious for all kinds of reasons, external, global, but also frightening ourselves by the risks that we take and so on, because we've discussed on many episodes that fear actually is making our body shed lots of adrenaline and noradrenaline and cortisol, our own natural steroid hormone. Now, we're designed so that those things are very good in short bursts if we're frightened, as of in trying to run away from a tiger. But when it becomes chronic and we're full of adrenaline all the time, then that threshold for your lungs to vasoconstrict, for the bronchioles to constrict, bronchoconstrict, you're already halfway there or 3/4 of the way there because you're flooded with adrenaline. But when your own steroid levels are high, also the immunity is suppressed and bugs thrive. And the other thing that happens in stress is we release glucose into the blood. So you've got a bit of a perfect storm because, you know, we're a bit of a sitting duck for an infection and an asthma attack. So the kinds of things we can start to notice is we're coming back to self-regulation and balance and noticing, you know, you're always big on awareness. Am I frightened? Am I holding my breath? Am I out of balance? You know, so that I can actually withdraw and just breathe myself or use yoga breath or heart rate variability monitoring to get myself back into balance.
Yeah. I mean, we really started off this series from that platform, didn't we, when we talked about sleep and how self-regulation and bringing ourselves back into balance. It's going to be a theme, the golden thread through all of these episodes, I think, Rosie. And from a personal point of view, I can spot now when I feel stressed and I get like a tightening in my throat and maybe a little bit of extra mucus, and I reach for the vitamin C 3 times a day, and I do my yoga and I do my breath work and I calm my system down. And it's almost like you can nip it in the bud. So the bugs can't get hold of you, because when we're stressed, it's like this great environment for the bugs are going, yippee, I can thrive.
And when you work with an HRV monitor, so that's heart rate variability monitor, Heart Math do a great one, but also there's a cheaper one called a Kyto, Kyto, where you can just get a clip that clips on your ear and that Bluetooths to an app on your phone, where you can start to see this precious measure called heart rate variability. So it's not the same as your pulse. Some wearables say they measure it and they don't. But it's measuring beat to beat variation. And what we're supposed to do is go, our heart's supposed to go a little faster, a little slower, a little faster, a little slower. And it does that when we are in balance and in what's called coherence. And guess how we get there? When we feel safe, when we feel loved, when we feel secure. It's the natural state when we're in a good place. And on the little graph that you see, there is a breathing pacer. And what Dr. Alan Watkins, our superhero, says is that the feature of a breath that brings you back into balance is a breath that is the same length. So it's a counted breath, whether you do 4 or 6 or 8, you're breathing in for a certain amount, you're pausing, you're breathing out for the same amount and pausing. And you can bring yourself back into coherence within about 10 breaths. It's quick.
It's that quick.
It's that quick.
I've done the alternate nostril breathing. That one works for me. And I tell you what it does. It does 2 things. It brings back that coherence, but it also switches off my mind. So before, not very long into it, I'm like, oh, I'm not thinking about that thing that I was stressed about anymore. It's almost like it happens and I come out of that thought pattern without even realizing.
Well, I'm such a major fan of Pranayama, yogic breathing. It's breath work, and Yama's work, prana is breath. But, our nose is connected to our midbrain. So the nerves that run in from the back of the nose, because you think how a lot of animals find their way around, it's through the nose, through the scent. And, in this particular case, we are talking both this week and before about hay fever, about what's going in through the nose. So when you do the alternate nostril breathing and breathe very slowly and evenly, the yogis say you are directly balancing sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. They call it Ida and Pingala. And in the staff of Hermes, the emblem of the medical profession that's got the twin snakes going down the staff.
Yes, I do know that.
Yeah. Well, that is the yogic depiction of those, they call Ida and Pingala, these 2 channels of energy with the chakras in between each one. And extraordinarily, they map onto the nerve plexuses in the body. So, we have a pelvic plexus, a sacral plexus, the solar plexus, but, just below the ribs that everybody knows, the heart plexus, the throat plexus, the midbrain, the high brain. So, them there yogis knew what they were talking about. And it's just so poetic that they were seeing the sympathetic and the parasympathetic as the sun and the moon energies. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, let's go on to talk about how you can help yourself. But first, before we do that, what does conventional medicine offer for the management of asthma?
Well, they are offering things that override the problem. So the first thing is bronchodilators. So people will have had a puffer. That's probably something like salbutamol, which is a beta blocker. So that's actually blocking the effect, the impact of the adrenaline and the noradrenaline and, actually causing those little bronchioles to dilate again. If it's worse than that, then they go up to steroid inhalers like Becotide, which take it to a deeper level of suppression of the reaction. And there are others, the sodium chromoglycate, which is a tablet that some people take to help stabilize the mast cells in the lungs, which we've talked about before. And if it gets really, really, really bad, then the medical profession will put people onto steroid tablets and other kinds of immune suppressors. But as you're hearing, all of this is to do with suppressing something that we've actually said is a mechanism that's trying to help the body.
They seem to have their place, really. I mean, they do have their place for me because in times where I've had a really bad chest infection and it is difficult to breathe, that inhaler, even it being in my pocket, so I haven't actually used it, but even just having it near me helps my stress levels to come down, because that's the key, is that I'm going to be okay, all will be well, I'm breathing and calm. But it's very difficult because it's our breath and we can't get it. So I think they have like a support structure, but as an ongoing, reliable, reliant medicine, it's worrying.
Karen, they're lifesavers. They are absolute lifesavers, and it is incredible to be able to bring somebody round either with steroids or one of these other things. But the problem comes when, if we're on steroids long term, we're prone to infection. It can thin our skin. It can cause bleeding. It can weaken our bones and suppress immunity in terms of then potentially having infections in other parts of the body or more serious chest infections. So it's again all about balance. Let's use these things sparingly at the right moments, but let's look at all the raft of things we can do for ourselves that can stop us having an attack in the first place.
And that's what we're all about, bringing back a level of control for yourself and making choices. How can we help ourselves, Rosie? We've talked about breathing techniques. Are there any other methods that are important?
So, with learning breathing technique, it's about practice. It's not about trying to do it when you're having an attack. Yes. It's about doing it every day, so that maybe twice or even 3 times a day, you do some slow breathing, counted breath, so that your whole respiratory mechanism relaxes and you're taking your stress level down and you're resetting your nervous system. There's a specialist breathing method called Buteyko. It is about helping people to tolerate higher levels of carbon dioxide. So it involves some breath holding technique. I'm going to just park that. It's not for everybody. But the kinds of things that really make the difference are relaxation to get the tension out of the physical body and meditation to still the mind. So all of that bundle that goes with yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong. But, I'm going to throw the ball back to you for the question of emotional resilience and how people embark upon the whole thing of being real about how they feel.
It's a scary journey, Rosie. That's what I want to say first. And I noticed in myself, in my own experience, and in other women that are this close to coming into circle or this close into coming to a retreat and then back away. So that's the first thing I want to name, is that there is a push-pull in our body, very, very normal, of I want things to be different, but I am really scared. And sometimes people can't explain it. It's just the no comes in. Now, that's really important to name, because that is the coping mechanism. That is the shadow, it's also called. But it's a very positive intention that it's got. It's not a negative thing. It's part of who we are. It's probably been created at a younger age when some sort of traumatic experience happened, and it's worked very hard for us. The first time somebody in Circle said that to me, I burst into tears, because that was the part of my characteristic that needed to be acknowledged, that it was doing something really positive for me in trying to keep me safe. There just comes a point, Rosie, where it no longer serves us. And it actually keeps us away from people. It keeps us away from situations. You can end up being quite isolated, because this is what this shadow is telling you, is to stay away from situations because you are keeping yourself safe. So at that moment where a woman is ready, or a man is ready to start and feel their emotions. Now, Paula Petrie, who I work very closely with, will say that is a vibration at courage. So the emotion of courage is at that point where we start to change and not protect ourselves, but start to release emotion, let go. And it's all when we feel safe enough inside. So we have to put ourselves into situations where there is a safe, energetic field. And that is what the Women's Circle is. That is what retreats are. There's a structure there's a code, if you like, these 8 agreements from Joey, which create this container where somebody's inner safety can build to such a level that they then start to release. And, the first emotions to come out probably are sadness, grief, anger, all the low vibrational energies. But guess what follows, Rosie, after we've released that love? Joy, happiness, laughter. Because once we stop feeling, you can't just stop feeling the bad stuff. If you do just feel good stuff, you're masking in some way. So it's about becoming whole, love, yeah. But I'm absolutely convinced from my personal experience and what I've seen on retreats particularly and in circle is that you get a whole new level of wellness once you start letting these emotions move.
So really you're saying that it's because we repress emotion because we don't feel safe to express our feelings. We're either, thinking of back to my own childhood, there was no question of expressing my feelings whatsoever, because what I was doing the whole time was managing my mother's anger. So, I was scared of being hit. So most of my behavior was around trying to stop her from freaking out.
So needed. Survival technique.
Yeah.
Worked very hard for you. Thank goodness for it. But as we come out of that unsafe situation, it then no longer serves us and we have to self-regulate again.
Yes, and the pathway that you're describing, into the safety of a woman's circle, and even, because I've witnessed that working with you and Joey, you can see the people who are new to circle, they're looking, watching, how's she speaking. And when we had Amy Mullery on, she said, I know that I'm a, whatever it might be, a leader, a path setter for other women, because I will launch in and I will say exactly how I feel. And then I notice others feeling brave enough to do that, to having I love that word, encouragement. Encouragement has got courage right there in the middle of it. So anybody listening, whether it's through groups, whether it's through health coaching or counseling or support groups of any sort, or even taking yourself to the woods and having a good cry,
or scream in the woods.
Or running a hot bath with lavender oil, lighting a candle, playing the saddest music that you've got in your collection and letting yourself weep, because a lot of us were told, that we shouldn't cry, or that, wash your face, what you're doing and all of that. But obviously there's this whole territory of the natural therapy territory. So bringing that into focus, herbal medicines, there are lots of herbs for the lungs. Coltsfoot comes to mind, but there are many. And there are beautiful aromatherapy oils. I love the brand doTERRA, who have really high quality oils. And they have one called Breathe. And it's got a lovely mixture of bay, peppermint, eucalyptus, tea tree, lemon, cardamom, Revinsara and Revinsara oil. Never heard of those two. But with the Breathe oil, you can diffuse it better, which is much better than burning it, or you can put it on a hanky and just like a tissue, just hold it near your nose and breathe the oil in, which is very calming and soothing for the lungs. Just also to talk about the link with nutrition, it's, we have a picture of a load on the system, the emotional load, what's happening from the foods you're eating, the air you're breathing, it's multifactorial. And very often people who are atopic have got issues. The most common is dairy and wheat. There may be other specifics, but people can get an IgG food intolerance test from the big labs like Genova Labs. And these are, this shows you what it is that your body is fighting with. And I know for me, the eczema was very much related to milk. And even though I had to hold my nose to swallow the stuff, it might have given my parents a clue, or the school. I was forced to drink those nasty little bottles of tepid milk at school. I know. So be conscious of, do you know that there are any foods that upset you? Does wheat make you bloated and make you constipated or nauseated? So look for foods which might be triggers.
I'm a big fan of doing a food diary, Rosie, and noting down everything you eat, but also how you feel and how you feel before and how you feel after.
Very
Because
good.
eating can be a trigger, a coping mechanism because I'm feeling sad, but also then your body can respond with all sorts of noises and sensations if you've eaten something that isn't right for it.
Brilliant. And I think while we're there for supplements, we talked very recently about omega-7 in sea buckthorn, which stabilizes the mucous membranes. Aloe vera stabilizes mucous membranes. And in general, the fatty acids, which are to do with our phospholipid cell membranes. And then, of course, all the beautiful things like acupuncture, shiatsu, the therapies that can rebalance the lung and the kidney energy, which is often also low when we have respiratory problems. And I think last, but definitely not least, I would put emotional freedom technique firmly on the map. We have our beautiful Go Deeper colleague, Rowena Beaumont, who practices EFT. And it's about that is a way to release emotional energy from these acupuncture meridians where it's held, and to take the emotional load off the system.
Yeah, definitely. And I would recommend homeopathy. That is my go-to. And actually, it was for my son as well. When Jacob, my eldest, was 2, he was getting chest infections, and the doctor said he needed an inhaler. So I took him to Lorraine, my homeopath, and she prescribed tuberculinum. And he had maybe 3 remedies over a period of 3 weeks. And now he's 6'2" and never needed an inhaler and doesn't have chest infections.
Great mothering.
And for me, I've had tuberculinum as well. And I also have been prescribed phosphorus for my chest. And we mention all of these modalities, Rosie, but I think the most important thing, because it can seem a bit overwhelming, which one do I try, is they do very similar things, but one is going to feel right for you. So we've got our Go Deeper page now on the website, and a lot of the people that we keep recommending, there is a space for them on our Go Deeper page. If you want to just speak to them, get a feel for the person, sense whether it's a modality that's right for you, then that's what we're trying to create. Opening that door for our audience, aren't we, Rosie, with our experts on Go Deeper? It just happened to my sister, actually, because I was recommending acupuncture, and she came across a lady local to her that does reflexology, and they've hit it off. This lady understands the concerns, the challenges my sister's got. And I'm like, great, if it's reflexology for you, that's it. But find your own thing that works for you.
Absolutely right. And I think in terms of hope, just as you just said with Jacob growing out of his asthma, I grew out of my eczema. Just occasionally, if I'm in a certain kind of stress, the creases will start to itch all behind my knees, and I just know, aha, right, listen to that, what's going on here. But you can grow out of this, because this allergic threshold can change and your immune system can grow, your nervous system can balance. So there's everything to play for. You do not have to see this as a lifelong condition.
Oh, love it. I love it when you hear that from Rosie. I love it. Even that raises my spirit, which then raises my immunity, which then, deep down in my cells, this body is worth fighting for. It's life-changing, Rosy. Thank you so much.
Oh, my great pleasure. I just really hope that people take this and run with it, listen back to the episode, because there's a lot that we've said here. And I'm sure it's ringing bells, especially the emotional side. So get the support, get the love, get the holding. There are kind, good, beautiful people around, start with Karen's circles and go deeper with other colleagues.
It's such an interesting journey finding out about yourself, Rosy, isn't it? Finding out how you tick, finding out what causes you to be sensitive to certain things. Yeah, good luck, everybody, on your journey. We give lots and lots of love. And reach out if you need support. Reach out.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosy. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services, such as my Dr. Rosy Daniel Clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats, and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosy and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.